Greetings, Nick with Sweetwater here, and today we're going to be learning all four of the mighty riffs that make up one of the most iconic rock songs of all time, the classic AC/DC hit, Back in Black. As I'm sure you know, Back in Black is the title track of AC/DC's epic album of the same name. This one right here. Released in 1980, this album was sold in excess of 50 million copies worldwide, making it one of the biggest selling albums of all time. Let's start at the very beginning, shall we, with this instantly recognizable intro riff. This riff consists of three open root fifth power chords, E5, D5, and A5. The E5 and A5 are simple, one-fingered affairs. To play E5, you just bar the A and D strings at the second fret with your first finger like this. And then what you do is you hit the low E, A and D strings together with your pick, like this. The low string, of course, being open. And just so you know, I've got my index finger cleverly angled so it's muting the G string. That way, if I hit it with my pick by accident, you don't hear it. Make sense? Check it out. Like I said, can't hear it. Nice. And the exact same thing is also true of the open A5 chord. You just scoot the idea down one string towards the floor like this. Ugh. Now your index finger is barring the D and G strings at the second fret. Dun, dun, dun. And to play the chord, I just hit the A, D and G strings together. Once again, the lowest string I'm hitting, the A string, is played open. And once again, I've cleverly angled my index finger, but this time so the B string is muted. Check it out. That way, once again, if I hit it, you can't hear it. Perfect. Incidentally, please make sure you don't accidentally hit the open E string when playing this chord. You don't want this to happen. Not in this song. To help prevent that, I invariably rest my thumb against it, the thumb of my fretboard hand. That way, if I accidentally hit it, you can't hear it. Check it out. The reason being, that dull thud is literally overpowered by the power chord of the A5. Nice. Hence the name power chord. Maybe. Our last chord, the open D5, involves two fingers, one at the second fret of the G string, and the other at the third fret of the B string. As you can see, I personally use my first and second fingers to do this. 1, 2. That said, I've seen a lot of people use their middle finger on the B string like that too. And to be honest with you, I do this on occasions too. Try both and pick the one that feels best for you. Having done this, to play the D5 chord, you just hit the D, G, and B strings together like this. And yes, you've guessed it, the D string is played open, and I've angled my fretboard hand fingers so the high E string is muted too. That way, as already mentioned, if I hit it by accident, you don't hear it. Now we know these three simple chord shapes, we play them in this order, E5, D5, then A5, just like this. And again, a little slower. As you've just heard, I hit the E5 once with the downstroke and I don't let it ring, like this. To make it sound like this stab, I use both my hands to mute the strings after I've played it. With my fretboard hand, I do two things. Number one, I relax my index fingers so they stay on the strings but no longer press them down to the fretboard, and at the same time I bring these two fingers down so they mute the low E string as well. And at the same time, I bring the heel of my picking hand down firmly but lightly on the strings, as a double failsafe. So it's literally a two-handed affair, like this. Got it? Both hands working in synchrony. I like it. Having done this, we then hit the D5 3 times with a quick down, up, down picking motion, like this. And here it is again, a little slower. Down, up, down. And once again, we make the last hit an abrupt stab by using our double-handed muting technique. So now we've got this thus far. Then we do the exact same thing as we did on the D5 on the A5 chord, with a nifty down, up, down picking motion and another two-handed mute at the end, like this. So now altogether we've got this. That's our main riff, chord riff, very nice. So now all we've got to do is learn 2 licks. And the first one is a simple open E minor pentatonic ditty, this one right here. And again, a tad slower. The first 4 notes of this little run are these. And as you can see, I'm using my 3rd finger to play the note at the 3rd fret. See, they line up number-wise. 3rd fret, same finger. Nice. I then do the exact same thing on the B string. 3rd fret with 3rd finger, then open. So altogether we've got this. The lick then finishes with this. A quick whole step bend and release at the 2nd fret on the G string, followed by a pull off to the open string note. Here it is, a little slower. As you can see, I'm doing the bend with my middle finger and reinforcing it with my index finger for extra strength and also control, like this. And then I finish off with a pull off to the open G string, as already mentioned. So it's bend, release, pull off with 1 pick only. There it was slowly. Here it is a little bit quicker. Like I said, I'm only picking the G string once. I repeat, only once. Now I personally bend the note by bending the string upwards towards the ceiling, but if you like, you can do it by pulling it down towards the floor as well. Try both and find which one works best for you and your playing style. Now, the tricky thing about this quick bend, release, pull-off motion on the G string is to make sure the other strings stay quiet, especially those pesky D and B strings on either side of the G string. I mean, we don't want this. I personally keep them quiet by resting my pick on the D string after I've done the bend, and at the same time the middle finger of my picking hand comes down and mutes the B string to stop it ringing too. Like this. Check this out very closely. Watch my picking hand. As you can see, I'm literally clamping down on the surrounding strings, the D and the B. D with my pick and the B with my middle finger. So now they literally can't ring because the only string ringing there is the G. This is second nature to me now. It's muscle memory. It's automatic. And for me personally, it works. Experiment around and find what's best for you. Unwanted string noise? Not good. Bad. Anyway, we've now got our first lick. This bad boy right here. So now all we have to do is this. Insert this lick in between 2 of the E5, D5, A5 chord riffs we've just learnt. Just like this. So, all we've got to do now is learn the second riff and we're golden. We've got the intro done. And said second lick is this. And again, a little slower. So as you've hopefully ascertained, in between each B note at the 2nd fret on the A string, we're going 4th fret, 5th fret, 6th fret, and then 7th fret on the low E string. The 7th fret being the last note, like this. Makes sense? Yup, it's a 4-fret chromatic climb up the E string from fret 4 to fret 7, with a B note on the A string in between each one. I personally use my pinky on frets 5, 6, and 7 of the low E string, but do whatever works best for you. Also, keep a nice staccato-like bounce going on each note rather than letting them ring for too long. It's this, not this. Second one, nah. Also, when you play the very last note of the run, namely the B note at the 7th fret on the low E string, you slide off it towards the nut like this. That gets your hand back in position to play the E and start the riff over again. Now, as you may have noticed, the last two notes of the riff, namely these two, are the exact same note. The reason for playing the same note like this back to back on different strings, they sound slightly different to each other. Check it out. It wouldn't sound the same if I did this. Nah, or this. This sounds good. The difference is very slight, but it has a great vibe, so that's the way you do it, because that's the way Angus and Malcolm did it. This done, we now have our intro riff complete, and also the verse riff as well, because it's the same thing. Here it is twice, just to make sure we've got it sussed out. A little sloppy, but close enough for rock and roll. Next up is the chorus riff, which sounds like this. The chorus riff consists of 6 chord shapes, and we happen to already know 3 of them, E5, A5 and D5. So let's quickly learn the other 3, shall we? The first one is a B5 power chord. This consists of the B note at the 2nd fret on the A string, and then the 2 notes at the 4th fret on the D and G strings. As you can see, I'm barring those with my pinky like this. But if you want, you can do the same exact thing, but using your 3rd finger to do the bar at the 4th fret like this. Or if that feels weird, like some people do, you can use your 3rd finger on the D string and your 4th finger on the G like this. So you've got 3 options. As always, pick the one that best floats your boat. Our next chord is one of my all-time favorites, and it's a beauty called B5/A. Its name may sound complex, but it's easy to play. As you can see, all I'm doing is fingering a B5 chord like this, and then lifting my 1st finger off so the A string is now open like this. So we now have this. Beautiful combination. In fact, you can hear these two played back to back by the late great Malcolm Young at the start of For Those About to Rock. We salute you. Like I said, beautiful, just beautiful. Anyway, AC/DC chord trivia aside, here's our final MIA chord, and I like to call it the big AC/DC open G5 chord, this one here. It's basically the open G chord you know and love, this one. But we're lifting our 1st finger off and angling our 2nd finger slightly down so it's muting the A string. So now we've got this. Just a huge G5 chord that consists of 3 root notes and 2 fifths. Perfect. As you can see, I personally use my pinky to fret the B and high E strings. That's just personal preference, so I've seen a lot of people finger it like this, namely the little finger on the high E string and the ring finger on the B. Try both and see which one works best for you. Now we know all 6 chords that are being used, let's learn the chorus, shall we? We're going to do this by breaking it down into 3 bite-sized chunks. Section 1 is this. Pretty simple, right? It's just 4 chords. I'm going A5 to E5 to B5 first, like this. Then I go to the B5/A, then back to B. So all in all, I've got this. And I do that twice. Pretty simple, right? A5, E5, B5, B5/A, B5. Nice. Section 1 done. Let's go on to section 2 now, shall we? Which is this. That's not too bad, right? It starts with G5 to D5 to A5, like this. Then you play the G note at the 3rd fret on the low E string with your 2nd finger and give it a very slight blues bend like this. And then we go back to another A5 chord like this. So slowly it's this. Pretty simple, right? And once again, just like section 1, we play section 2 twice before moving on. So we do this. Then, guess what we do? Yep, we go back to section 1 again and play it twice. So this is what we've got thus far. Section 1 twice, section 2 twice, then back to section 1 for another 2 rotations. So let's check it out. So it goes like this. And guess what? That just leaves us with section 3 to learn, and that's made up of 2 mere chords, G5 and D5. Now the version of section 3 I'm going to show you is the live version that Malcolm Young plays, and it's really, really cool and easy to remember because each chord is played 3 times and mimics the vocal timing of Back in Black, exactly like this. So back in black, G5, then D5. Like it. To be specific, I got this from the amazing AC/DC Live at Donington DVD. And if you go on the YouTubes, you can find Malcolm Young's isolated rhythm guitar part for Back in Black, and his power, precision, and attitude is just awe-inspiring. And it reminds you also of just how clean his sound was. Most people, myself included, invariably used way too much gain when playing AC/DC stuff. Less is more in this particular case. Here's the whole chorus played as one, exactly like Live at Donington 1991. Well, as close as I can get to the late great Malcolm. Here goes. Next up is the rhythm guitar part underneath Angus's solo. This uses 4 chords, E5, A5, and a pair of new ones, each consisting of just 2 notes. The first one is called E7 with no third, this one right here. As you can see, it consists of the open E string note and also the note at the A string on the 5th fret played together like this. The next 2-note chord is called E6 with no third, and this is the same deal, just move back 1 fret, so my finger goes from the 5th fret back to the 4th fret, which is a C sharp, and then I play the open low E string with said fret held on the A string like this. Pretty simple, right? And we're going to drop the no third bit and just call them E7, E6. Yeah, I like that. Less is more once again. Now we know the chords. Let's learn this part by breaking it down into 2 sections. Section 1 goes like this. And again, a little slower. As you've just heard, it's a single E5 stab with a downstroke like this. Then down, up, down on E7 like this. Then the same exact thing, down, up, down on E6 like this. Which gives us thus far this. To finish off section 1, we merely go down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up on E5 like this. And again, a hair slower. So section 1 in its entirety is this, my friend. Not too bad, right? One more time, a little slower. Now let's do section 2, shall we, which goes like this. As you can hear, it starts off exactly the same way as section 1, just like this. So it's down on E5, then down, up, down on E7, then down, up, down on E6. It then finishes by going E5, A5, E5, A5, like this. So the whole thing together is like this. So the entire riff, when we combine section 1 and section 2 together, is this. And what we do is just repeat this throughout the solo, which is exactly what the legendary Malcolm does. And this leaves us with one more riff to go, which is my favorite in the whole song. And the whole song is great, but this one is just a standout for me. And it happens after the third chorus. And it's the interlude or middle eight. Call it what you will, this part right here. And I love it. So I'm going to play it with a backing track to get the full oomph. Yep, if I haven't said it already, I love that part. It's actually a 12-note repeated riff, so we're going to break it down into 2 6-note chunks, chunks 1 and chunk 2. First though, here are those 12 notes played slowly. And one more time. Here's chunk 1, the first 6 notes. Chunk 1 starts with an open E string note, then frets 5, 4, and 2 on the A string. You pick the first 2 notes, namely the low E string and then the 5th fret on the A string, which I'm fretting with my pinky, and then you pull off to the other 2 on the A string. So I'm going pick, and then 2 pulls, so it's pick, pull, pull. Make sense? 1 pick, 3 notes. Then after those pull-offs, I go back to the 4th fret note with my ring finger on the A string, pick it, and then go to the 3rd fret note on the low E string, which I play with my middle stringer. So I go. So those first 6 are very slowly this. Without the pinch harmonic, of course. This might take a while because that pull-off is pretty difficult, especially as you're doing it with your little finger, but it'll give your finger a great workout, so stick with it. And remember the 3 sacred P's, namely practice, patience, and persistence. Stick with those and you'll get it, I promise. Now, I've seen transcriptions of this riff where they say all the notes are picked, but I definitely hear pull-offs. That said, don't take my word for it, though. Listen and you decide yourself. Trust your own ears. Anyway, that's chunk 1 done. Let's check out the remaining 6 notes, which will make up chunk 2. And as it happens, it's a complete case of deja vu, because they're the last 6 notes of lick 2 that we covered in the main riff. These 6 right here. Here are those 6 again, played a little slower. Like I said, deja vu, easy, perfect. So by putting chunks 1 and 2 together, we get the whole enchilada, which is all 12 notes, which is this. Now, what happens is we repeat this riff 4 times like this. And then what we do is simply this. We play the same riff, but move it down a string towards the floor. So instead of playing it on the E and A strings, we play it on the A and D strings, just like this. Make sense? Same thing, move down one string. So we play that one twice. So we do this. Then having done that, guess what? Yep, we go back to where we started and play the riff twice more. So we do this. And that's it. 4 in the ridge position, 2 a string higher, then back again for another 2. 4 plus 2 plus 2 equals 8, which is why it's often called the middle 8. Make sense? Cool. And there you have it, my friend. The 4 riffs that make up the timeless AC/DC classic we know and love as Back in Black. And as cool as being able to play the main riff is, there's nothing like being able to play the whole song successfully all the way through, and this lesson will help you do that. Have fun with this, and remember, dial that gain control back a smidgen or 3 for this one, like I didn't do. Have fun. I'm out of here. See ya! Thank you so much indeed for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment nicely please, and subscribe. Click here for more videos like this, and go to sweetwater.com for all your music instrument and pro audio needs. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Goodbye.